Hey everyone, welcome back. So President Trump wants to send Americans $2,000 checks, and because of one reason, this may actually happen sooner than we think, despite opposition from the Democratic Party. So in today's video, we are going to be covering everything that you need to know. But before we go ahead and dive into for today, if you would like to receive up to $200 in free stock or $200 in free cash, in the pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Robinhood. All you have to do is once you click on that link is just sign up for a free account and then simply link your bank account. You do not even have to make an opening deposit. At that point in time, Robinhood will be sending you one free stock worth all the way up to $200. And if you'd rather just have the cash, all you have to do is once you receive the free stock is just sell it for what it's worth and then transfer the cash value right back to your bank account. Okay, so diving right into it for today. So President Donald Trump has announced that he wants to send Americans $2,000 checks. Now, unfortunately, this is not something that he can do via an executive order. So if this is something that you really want for him to do, first off, he is going to have to gain the support from members of Congress. Both Republicans and Democrats are going to have to get on board with this idea. More than likely, but there is a workaround just in case Democrats are not willing to get on board with this idea. And in a time where a lot of Americans are saying they are struggling with the economy, as we begin to see inflation tick back up again, this would be something very huge to take place within the next few months and possibly 1 month alone, which would be a really key deadline, not only for President Trump, but also Republicans as well. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it for today. First off, with this article here from Business Insider, they say what you need to know about Donald Trump's proposed $2,000 tariff revenue dividend checks. So President Donald Trump has a new fix to the affordability crisis, giving some of the tariffs you paid back to you. He said, quote, "People that are against tariffs are fools," Trump posted on Truth Social on Sunday. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Trump's social media posts are not actual orders for the government to take any action, but the idea is already drawing attention. Now, according to a November 10th analysis by the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, there would not be enough tariff revenue to fund Trump's idea. He said, quote, "With our national debt quickly approaching an all-time high and annual budget deficits approaching $2 trillion per year, it is imperative that policymakers focus on actually reducing deficits and putting debt on a downward path," the CRFB wrote. Now, whether or not we can actually afford this or not really depends on how much it's going to cost. Obviously, it's, the tariffs are drawing in only so much money, but how much money is going to go out with this idea? So, for example, he says everyone is going to receive these checks other than high-income people. Who does he consider to be high income? Is it going to be the same folks who received the full stimulus checks back in 2020 and 2021? That was $75,000 for individuals, and couples received couples with individuals who received the full check were those who received $75,000 or less in income. And then for married couples, the cutoff line was $150,000. Double that. If you earn more than $150,000 as a couple, you might still receive a check, but it would be a reduced amount. Is it going to be the same income lines, or is it going to be more? Also, does Trump want to include dependents as well? If you include dependents, this is obviously going to be a lot more expensive. Or is it going to be, let's just say $2,000 per household? If it's $2,000 for everyone plus dependents, it's going to get a lot more expensive, because if you have like a household of 4, you have a married couple plus 2 kids, that's going to be $8,000 for the entire household. Whereas if it's just $2,000 per household, then it gets a lot cheaper. It's only $2,000 as opposed to $8,000. So we're talking, hundreds, billions of dollars of difference there. Now, what did Trump propose? In simple terms, Trump appears to be proposing a dividend, which typically refers to a payment made by a corporation to its shareholders on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, usually representing a distribution of the company's profits based on the number of shares held. In this case, Trump is saying that each American could receive a portion of the tariff revenue collected through import duties, which he said would amount to $2,000 per person. However, there is a catch. It is very possible that you would not come out ahead with $2,000 more, because as a consumer, you are probably paying for some of the tariff revenue the government has collected, as many companies have passed tariff costs to consumers. And according to the Yale Budget Lab's October report, the total 2025 tariffs are equivalent to an average loss of $1,800 per household. So that $2,000 personal surplus is likely closer to $200. So basically what they're doing there, these different companies that are now paying more for their goods and services. So for example, Walmart or Target, for example, are importing goods from like China or Vietnam, for example. And because of these tariffs, we now have Walmart and Target paying more for the goods that they're importing to resell to us. So since they are now having to pay more for the goods and services that they're receiving, in order for them to make the same exact amount of profit, they're now also having to hike their price. They're now having to raise their price on their goods and services on us. So basically, we're the ones paying the tariff. And there's been different research out there. This one, for example, shows that Americans are paying $1,800 more per year on average because of these tariffs. There have been other studies that actually show we're paying close to $4,000 more. It really depends on how much you spend, I guess. But, granted there, if you're spending $1,800 more, the $2,000 check that we might receive, hypothetically speaking, is really only going to offset what we're paying extra. Now, as far as who could qualify, they say it's unclear based on the language of Trump's social media post. It appears that only middle and low-income U.S. citizens will receive the rebate, but he did not specify the cutoff point. He also did not mention whether the income level would be measured according to regional standards or the national average. That's a great point as well, because if we use these same cutoff lines as back in 2020, 2021, $75,000 for individuals, $150,000 for married couples, obviously $75,000 in a state like Arkansas is going to go a lot further than $75,000 in a state like California. So regional standards is something that we should definitely keep in mind as well. Now, whether or not we can afford it, we can't really afford a lot of things. That's why we're $32+ trillion in debt as a country. And so we did the math. So far, the Trump administration has collected more than $220 billion in tariff revenue, including new tariffs and those left behind by the Biden administration. Now, according to the IRS, more than 163 million Americans filed tax returns in 2024. If we consider everyone making $100,000 a year or above to be too wealthy to be eligible, that still leaves around 150 million adults who would each receive $2,000, according to a post on X by Erica York, vice president of the Tax Foundation. In the case above, the total payout would be about $300 billion, which exceeds the total tariff revenue collected to date. So in that case, we'll have to either collect more tariff revenue, or we'll have to reduce the payments from $2,000 perhaps down to $1,500, or make it so less people are eligible. So right there, they're using a $100,000 income cutoff line. Maybe they have to reduce that down to $75,000, or maybe even $70,000. Now, whether or not Trump can do this via an executive order or unilaterally, more than likely not. They say that Congress is responsible for the government budget. Hence, the recent government shutdown, stimulus checks in the past, such as the pandemic-era rescue funds proposed by both Trump and the Biden administrations, had received congressional approval. That means the Republicans and Democrats both have to get on board with this idea. And even though Republicans do have the majority in the House and could pass such a bill without any Democrat support, in the Senate, it gets a lot more difficult, because in the Senate, for any bill to pass, they would need to have at least 60 votes, which means that even if all 53 Republicans vote in favor of the bill, which more than likely would not happen, especially with people like Rand Paul being more conservative when it comes to fiscal matters, they would have to get Democrats on board with this bill. And if Democrats don't want to have a check going out with Trump's name on it, then they're probably not going to vote in favor of the bill. However, there is one workaround for Republicans. That would be a second reconciliation bill. They've already had one this year in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was a bill that only passed with Republican support. Republicans could actually do this again. So according to Politico, Lindsey Graham is talking to fellow Republicans about another reconciliation bill. So Senate Budget Chair Lindsey Graham said on Thursday that he is meeting with fellow Republicans about making a new run at passing a party line policy bill in the coming months. He said, quote, "I want us to look at what a reconciliation package, a new one, would look like," Graham said in a brief interview. He said, "We could do some things on healthcare. We can do some things on policy, taxes, and spending." So as he mentions there, healthcare could be one of the ideas in a reconciliation bill. But on top of that, they could also include this $2,000 stimulus check, and they could pass it with only Republican support. This bill could get no votes from Democrats, and they could still pass it. This is going to be absolutely huge and crucial for Trump and Republicans. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Now, they're going here to say that as Budget Committee Chair, the South Carolina Republican, in essence, quarterbacks the party line reconciliation process that would allow the Senate GOP to skirt a Democratic filibuster. His panel is responsible for crafting the budget resolution that unlocks the subsequent policy legislation that can pass with a simple majority. Graham's comments after Senator John Kennedy told reporters Wednesday that Graham was convening a meeting of Budget Committee Republicans, Graham confirmed he is meeting with fellow GOP senators. Now, passing another reconciliation bill after this summer's mega bill would be a heavy lift, and there's plenty of skepticism that there's enough of an appetite inside the slim House and Senate GOP majorities to get a bill across the finish line. Now, you can see up on the screen, we have the midterms coming up in November of 2026, and right now, Democrats are absolutely crushing Republicans so far with the polling data. The most recent poll from economists in YouGov has Democrats a +7, from Emerson, Democrats a +4, from CNN, Democrats +5. All the other polls, Democrats are absolutely crushing Republicans by as much as +8. In that one poll by NBC News, there is a tie in the poll from News Nation, but otherwise, Democrats are looking very good to retake the House and possibly maybe even take the Senate as well. And if that were to happen, pretty much kills any chance of Trump or Republicans getting anything done that only the Republicans want to get done. So if Trump and Republicans want to get one more big piece of legislation across the finish line, this would be their best chance to do it. And if they also want to win the midterms and not lose the control of the House and not lose control of the Senate, how about sending a stimulus check out to the American people right before the November elections? Let's talk about maybe September, maybe October. If you receive a check in October next year, 2026, that has Donald Trump's name on it of $2,000, is that going to make you want to go out and vote for the Republicans? Is that going to make you want to go out and vote for the Democrats? Maybe you're not going to switch your vote over from the Democrat to the Republican, but it definitely makes it so there is a better chance for Trump to be in, good standing with the American people. But with that said, leave your thoughts and comments below. What do you think about a $2,000 check? Are you in approval of it? Do you think it's going to happen? Leave your thoughts and comments below. But that's all we have for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.